Let's talk about value. As I said, Larry Miles developed value engineering while working in the purchasing department of General Electric. So he defined value as usefulness over cost. We define value as functionality of the cost. What is the function? Function is why we buy products and technologies. Function is interaction between different components of the system. Why is function analysis so important? There are three main reasons for importance of function analysis. Number one, it breaks psychological inertia. Thinking about functions rather than components breaks psychological inertia. I'll give you an example that I love very much. In late 60s, Soviet Union was sending stations on the dark side of the moon. And as you can imagine, on the dark side of the moon, you need to have some lights. Because when the station lands, you want to take pictures, grab samples, and so on. And every time when they tested the station, the light bulb that they had outside the station would break. They tried different technologies, and they could not solve this problem. But they had a deadline, and if you don't meet the deadline, you could be in trouble. So they put together the best scientists in the country, and in 3 months, they solved the problem. They could have solved this problem in 5 minutes if they used function analysis. What is the function of a glass bulb that we have in a light bulb? This function is to stop air from reaching the hot filament. There is no air on the moon, so we don't need this function, and therefore we don't need the glass bulb. You see, this is how we break psychological inertia, which is ability to think and do things the same way as we always do. The second reason why we need function analysis is because functions are universal. Let's say take water filter that you have in Brita or any other device. What is the function of water filter? To stop impurities, right? But different water filters in a different design filters would look differently. You cannot use them. And by the way, the air filter that you have in a gas mask will look completely different. And I'm not talking about air filters in your car or an air conditioner and so on. And yet, all these filters are performing the same universal function to stop impurities. And if you think about functional approach, you could use technology from one area to another. Remember peanut butter example? Cement industry versus food industry. It's only because functions of moving particles are universal. We work with a company, semiconductors industry, that faced a severe problem. Photoresist polymer that they were using would start from time to time bubbling, and they had to scrub the whole run of wafers, which would cost them $1 million a day. So they dealt with objects. There was a photoresist polymer, and they obviously invited the best polymer scientists in the world and asked them to solve this problem. And they offered them a solution, 2 years and $3 million development that will develop a new polymer. And yet, if they looked at the functional approach and defined problems that they had in a functional language, which was how to remove gas from liquid. And this function is universal, and there are many areas of science and engineering and different industries where people know how to perform this function. Carbonated beverage, scuba diving, champagne production. In Champagne, they need to perform opposite function, right? How to contain gas in liquid. But if you know how to perform one function, you could perform opposite. They actually adopted the solution from the champagne industry and for $65 solved their problem. So the second reason is functions are universal and they allow you to connect things that are not connected and adopt technologies from different areas. And the third one, functional approach helps you to identify problems that you could not have seen using other approaches. And by solving those problems, you will advance your development, develop a new product, and successfully commercialize them. Let me give you an example. There is a company in Europe that was making water heater to boil a glass of water to have a cup of tea. The normal heater that they put in a glass of water would boil the water in a minute 20 seconds. Their marketing showed that if they reduce the time down to 45 seconds, they would get extra 35% of market share. They applied functional analysis and they identify that bubbles of air, which is the essence of boiling, were performing harmful function. They were stopping heat transfer from the coil to the water. So the problem that they need to solve, not to increase power or change surface properties of the coil, which, by the way, every engineer in the field was telling them to do, but to perform function to remove air bubbles. And they found technologies to do that and develop a product was less expensive than the original that they have and was boiling water for 45 seconds. So there are three reasons why functional approach is useful for successful commercialization. Number one, functions break psychological inertia. Number two, functions are universal. They allow us and help us to connect industry and technology that are not connected. And number three, they help us to identify problems that we have not been able to identify using other methods. And overall, functional approach is the key for taking great technological advancement, advance the main parameters of value, and bring technological advancement to commercial success, which is successful commercialization is all about.